Hi everyone, welcome to Find Your Flow. I am Natalie and today we have the next part of our Vinyasa Flow for Beginners series, and this one we're going to be diving in a little more on triangle pose and all of the different postures that lead up to help prepare our body for that posture. So hop on your mat and I'll meet you on mine. So I would recommend for your practice taking hold of some yoga props or your own at-home version of yoga props. So if you have a strap and a brick or two, great. If not though, you can use, instead of a strap, a resistance band, a tie, the tie for your dressing gown, all sorts of things. And for a brick, I've used dumbbells before, I've used water bottles, you can use Tupperware boxes, anything at all that's just going to support you in your practice and help to add a little bit more space. So if you don't have these, don't worry, but they're just there as options. And if you do have a strap, just bring it close to your mat and we'll begin our practice lying down on the ground. So take your time to arrive there. Just shuffle your way to a super comfortable space on the earth. And either with the legs out long or this bend in the knees, so that we can really soften our lower back space to the earth. This is a particularly more comfortable option perhaps if you do suffer with any sort of lower back niggles or aches and pains. So however feels most comfortable for you, I invite you to place hands on the belly. And as we close down our eyes, just right away come to connect to our breath. And this relationship that we'll start to build with our breath is something that we'll take with us through our practice on our mat, but also take it off our mat with us, as our breath really, really nurtures every single day of our lives if we just take a bit of time to pay attention to it. So we'll begin by mindfully breathing in through our nose, out through our nose. We're not overcomplicating anything, we're not taking super deep, long breaths. We're just being aware of breathing when we're breathing. And notice what's happening in the body here. Let's keep connected to this space beneath the palms and what's going on. To help access a nice full breath. As we inhale, can we feel that belly rise and inflate like a balloon? And as we exhale, soften and let the belly release. And although we don't breathe from our stomach, our main breathing muscle, our diaphragm, is located around this area, just beneath the low part of the ribs. And when we over-exaggerate this stomach movement, we can over-exaggerate the diaphragmatic movement that helps us to get a really nice full breath. So as always today, I invite you to meet yourself where you are and come to this practice without any judgment or expectation, and simply move in a way that feels good for you and take what you need. If you need to ease off, please do. If you want to find a little extra support from any props, then please do. Props are just there as a way to support us in our practice and help us to find a little extra room. Come to find 3 more breaths here. And on your last exhale, open your mouth and sigh it out. Any gripping or holding releasing from the physical body. Then wiggling fingers and toes, just start to flutter the eyes open. And lengthen the arms and the legs out long. And really take a big full body reach here. So have a little wiggle in the hips, the fingers, the toes, and really pay attention to finding as much length as you can through the torso and really reaching through the side body space. Nice. And then letting lower back space come to the earth, we'll hug just the right leg up and in, interlacing the hands onto the right knee or shin. And we'll really think about hugging that knee up and in towards the armpit space. And from here, curl forehead up towards the knee, round up through the spine, and we'll stay here. Finding an activation in the left leg, flexing the toes up towards our face, we'll hover left leg off the earth. And if we start to feel our lower back arching off, that's just an invitation to lift this left leg a little higher. Awesome. Keep breathing wherever you are, keeping soft in the face. And then we'll add a little movement, nice and slow. Imagine you're moving in slow motion. We'll lift that left heel up towards the sky. And then nice and slow, bring it down to hover back off the earth. Awesome. Hover here for 3, 2, 1, and release. Lift that right heel up towards the sky now and lengthen the right leg. Now this is where we have the option of taking that strap. If we do use our strap, we can bring it around the middle of the foot and just allow the arms to soften as the toes flex towards the face, and we very gently guide that foot closer towards us. If we don't have our strap, no worries. Hands come to the hamstring, maybe the calf. We're looking to keep the shoulders soft here. So if we're finding this curling up, this rounding, crunching, then just ease off. And keep a nice bend in this right knee, wherever we are. We're just opening through the back chain of the legs here. So really keeping the toes flexed. We're feeling this opening all the way from the heel, the ankle, down the calf, down to the hamstrings, towards the glutes. Find one more breath here. And then release. Take your strap to one side if you have one, and just take a second to hug both knees up and in towards you. Hands to the knees and rock gently side to side. We'll then come back to center. Keep the left leg hugging in and send the right leg out long on the ground. Interlace the hands and then hug the knee all the way up and in towards that armpit space. So we're adding a little more space to the lower back and sacrum area rather than compressing and tightening our knee towards our chest. When you're ready, curl forehead up towards the knee, round through the spine, and stay here as we activate that right leg. Let it hover off the earth, flex the toes towards the face. Remember, our leg could be here, maybe it's here. We're just looking to keep that lower back on the ground. And then adding a little movement, nice and slow with control. Lift the right heel up. And then slowly hover it all the way down, just before it touches the ground. And release. Nice. Lift that left leg up towards the sky, kick the heel up. We're either using a strap of some sort or bringing hands to hamstrings, or maybe the back of the calf. Wherever we are, toes flex towards the face and breathe softly here. If this is way too much in the opposite hip flexor, we can bring our foot to the ground. So know that that's always an option in this practice. And just softening through the breath here, keeping this nice, smooth rhythm of our inhales and exhales. And releasing fully, hug both knees in towards us, rocking it side to side just for a moment. And then we have a couple of options here how we can rise into our tabletop all fours. So either roll to your right and just press your way up, or hands to the hamstrings, chin towards the chest, roll up and down the length of the spine. Have a little fun with this, take a couple more rolls. Don't worry if you don't make it first time. We'll lift all the way up and then meet in our tabletop. So take your time to arrive there. Be sure to add any extra padding if you need any underneath the knees or the wrists. And if the wrists are tender, we can take that fists option instead. Wherever we are, wrists beneath the shoulders, knees beneath the hips. Take a nice wide, sturdy base. Press down into the tops of the feet and the palms. Really feel like you're pressing the ground away as we slightly spread the shoulder blades apart from one another. And when you're ready, let your breath lead the way as we curl the tailbone down to the ground. Lift our spine, drop our gaze in between our thighs in our cat pose. Picture that
black, angry Halloween cat, lifting the spine all the way up. Really spread the shoulder blades apart. Arms stay long. Then with your breath, lift the tailbone. Roll the tummy down, let the heart open. Gaze just in front of the hands into cow. Keep pressing through the palms here. Mindful that we aren't crunching in the back of the neck and lifting the gaze too high. So keeping it long and moving here a couple more times through your cat and cow, just exploring this spinal wave here. Setting an intention to really enjoy this rippling effect with each of the vertebrae moving one by one by one, even if this is just an intention. So don't worry if we are feeling quite a bit of tightness in the spinal space. Just invite some movement using your breath as your guide. Next time you come to cow, make it your last one before floating back to your neutral spine and tucking the toes under. And we'll come to meet here, walking the hands forwards, spreading through each of our fingers and really rooting down through our palms. We'll make our way up to a downward facing dog. So sending the tailbone high, lifting all the way up to the sky. And then reshuffling the feet if you need to. Remember, your down dog will look very different to my down dog just because of how our bodies are made, our height, the length of our legs, our arms, everything. So make this work for you. Just make sure our hands and feet are wide enough so we have a nice sturdy base to work from. And don't worry about the heels getting to the ground. We're looking to bend the knees and tilt our pelvis up towards the sky so we can add a little more length through the spine, openness through the shoulder space. Finding one more breath here. And then release knees to the earth, tabletop. Nice. Take a second to come off the hands if you need to and just give the wrists a little bit of love. And then jump back into our all fours. And we'll plant our right palm, reach our left hand up to the sky. Take a breath in. Exhale, thread the needle. Thread it through and under the bridge of the right arm. Come to rest our left ear on the ground. And if it doesn't reach, no problem. This is where we can find something to just lift the ground up towards us, whether it's a blanket, a pillow, anything at all. Just looking to make this work for you and support your practice. And mindful that the hips aren't tilting over to one side here. We're looking to keep them right in the center where they started and find this rotation really through the rib cage space, the thoracic part of our spine. And this will help to prepare us for our triangle pose. Breathing fully. Then pressing the right palm into the earth, we'll reach all the way back up and soften. Nice. Left hand plants now. Reach the right hand high. Take a nice breath in. And exhale, release, thread the needle. Come to rest that right ear on your prop or on the ground and stay here. Notice how one side might feel different to the other. And just open your mind to be aware of that. Keep checking back in with our breath. These nice conscious inhales and exhales. And then pressing left hand to the earth. Rise all the way up and out. And release completely. Awesome. And we'll walk our knees a little bit further back here. Keep our hands reaching forwards, but lift onto our fingertips. So we're tenting our palms, we're strengthening through the hands here and the wrists. And then come to send our heart space down towards the ground. And we might be here, and this might feel like it's enough. We might be able to go a little lower. Remember, it's not about how far we go down in our practice. We're just looking to find a space where we can comfortably stay and be with our breath. And closing down the eyes, if you feel comfortable, to focus a little more on what you feel here and what's going on inside of you rather than what you see. So just trust the sound of my voice. Really opening through upper back body space. See if you can focus a little more on lengthening through the side body. Really, really reaching with the arms actively. And then rise up and plant the palms. We'll shift our shoulders over our wrists again. Come to a tabletop with the toes tucked under this time. Planting through the palms firmly. We'll hover the knees just off the ground. Really keep pressing away through the palms, and then lengthen left leg, lengthen right leg, come to our high plank. We can come straight to the ground here if we like, in our low plank if we know that's in our practice today. If we can, staying in our high plank for a couple of breaths, really feel this full body expression, heels sending away actively so the legs are engaged. Find one more breath here, and then everyone release, knees to the earth, low plank, mindful the hips aren't dropping or lifting too high. We're looking to find that long line from the back of the knees to the crown of the head. Hugging the elbows in towards us. If we can, lower down on one level, or keep this controlled motion, almost slinky dog down to the ground. So thighs, hips, belly, chest. And we're still using our triceps to strengthen here and lower us with control. So planting through the tops of the feet, hands back by the rib cage, roll the shoulders away from the ears and let the heart space lift and shine forwards, baby cobra. Just like we did in our cow pose, think about keeping the back of the neck long, mindful we aren't crunching up towards the sky, and then take a second to hover the hands away. Careful we're not muscling into our cobra, we're looking to use the strength we have in our back body to keep us lifted here. Awesome. Plant the palms, and again, with control, press up. Elbows stay hugging and checking in with those triceps, and sit straight back into a child's pose. Knees wide, toes together, arms forwards. And if the forehead doesn't touch the earth, we can bring a prop underneath. And similarly, if our hips don't touch our heels, then you can just lift something into this space to find a bit more of a support for you. Find one more breath in child's pose. And then rise up just enough to tuck the toes under. We'll reach our arms forward, prepare for our down dog, so really planting through our palms, and then let the tailbone lift high towards the sky. Nice. Have a little wiggle and a pedal. Just take the movement that feels good in your down dog. Remember, don't be afraid to bend the knees to really help tilt the pelvis up so we're getting lots and lots of length in the side body, in the spinal space in general. Find one more breath here. And then walking the feet forwards towards the hands. Keep a bend in the knees. Come to find a forward fold towards the front of your mat. Let the crown of the head shine down towards the ground. We'll hug opposite hand to opposite elbow and sway side to side like a heavy pendulum. Bend the knees even more here. And the more we bend the knees, the more love we're really sending to the back of the legs and that lower back space. So it becomes more of a release than creating any undue tension. Come back to center. We'll lift up halfway. Glide the hands on the tops of the legs up to the thighs. Roll the shoulders away from the ears. And let our arms be like little grasshopper legs. So we're really inviting lots of openness and space to our front body, to our heart center. Find one more breath here. And then release, fold forwards. Start to become a little more aware of the feet spreading through each of the toes and really rooting down through all four sides of our feet. Letting the arms hang heavy, we'll roll up to standing. Really rooting and pressing down to the ground through the soles. And as we lift up to standing, reach the hands wide and high. And then dive all the way back down to the ground. Don't forget to breathe here. If you want to breathe with me, inhale, lift up halfway. Exhale, fold. Just make sure we're breathing mindfully wherever we are. Inhale, reach for the sky, take up lots of space, grow tall in the side body. Exhale, dive down to the ground. Nice, one more time. Inhale, halfway lift. Grasshopper arms, long body. Exhale, fold. Inhale, reach for the sky. This time, exhale, keep the arms lifted, but soften the shoulders. We'll take hold of the left wrist with the right hand. Reach a little taller and then fold towards the right side of our mat. And we'll keep our hips over our knees, knees over our ankles here, so we're not swaying all the way to one side. See if we can take our attention to this side body space and grow even taller here. Find one more breath. And as you exhale, float back to center. Take hold of the right wrist with the left hand, reach a little taller, and then fold towards the left side. And again, just being mindful that both feet are on the ground and we're not collapsing into one hip. Soft bend in both knees. Finding one more breath here. Exhale, release, come back to center and dive down to the ground. Forward fold. This time fingertips come to the earth. We'll step our right leg back, making sure that we're not on a tightrope, but rather two wide parallel lines. Come to a runner's lunge with our front knee over our front ankle. We can use our bricks here underneath our hands to lift the ground up to us. Just helps us to provide a little bit more length in the spinal space and open a little easier into the hips. So take what you need there. Find one more breath and then everybody release that back knee to the ground. We'll reach our fingertips forwards and up, lifting into our low lunge. Mindful we aren't collapsing forwards here, keeping it nice and active, pulling our left hip crease back, right hip crease forwards. Take a breath in, lengthen tall, and as you exhale, dial that right hand down, either onto a brick or the earth. Left hand reaches all the way up to the sky. Nice twist here. And notice where we're really finding our twist. Just like when we were threading the needle, we're rotating from the rib cage. So the lower body stays where it started. Front knee over the front ankle. Front knee dialing into the center rather than collapsing in or splaying out. Find one more breath in stillness. And then we'll imagine we're painting a big rainbow in the sky. Left hand will trace back towards our glutes and then reach all the way back up and tap down onto the mat in front of us. We'll do that 2 more times. Really send the energy all the way to your fingertips. Give them a little wiggle as you move here if you'd like to. I always wiggle my fingertips just because I like to send that awareness to the hands. And one last time, sunshine, rainbow, whatever you want to paint, just paint it in the sky. And we'll come all the way back, left hand to the earth. Option again to lift up onto both bricks. As we lengthen our left leg back, rock our hips back and flex our left toes towards our face. So we're either here or here, coming light onto the fingertips, thinking about softening our belly down towards our thigh without compromising any of this length in our spine. So if we start to notice a rounding and a collapse here, that is an invitation to lift up a little higher. Just find one more breath. And then come back, left foot to the ground. We'll come light onto our fingertips as we tuck our back toes, lift the knee, and pivot that back foot to the ground fully. We'll then root down and rise up into a warrior 1. So don't worry if you missed our first Vinyasa for Beginners practice. I'll go over warrior 1 again. We're stepping on those 2 parallel train track lines so we have space between our feet. Front knee bent over the front ankle, back thigh spiraling towards the front of our mat. Our back toes are turning out to around 2 o'clock if we were looking at a clock face, and our front toes are facing straight towards the front of our mat. So notice as this back thigh spirals round, the hips start to travel towards the front, but don't worry if they're not exactly square on. It's just that intention of coming towards. Keep pressing away, particularly through the outer edge of that back foot, and then reaching the arms
softening the elbows to cactus arms, mindful that we aren't flaring the ribs out and drawing everything back in toward the midline. We'll just be here for one more full breath. And then release completely. Come down into our runner's lunge and we'll step straight back to our plank pose. Try not to rush your transition. Take your time to arrive in plank, this full body expression. And the knees to the ground, either lowering on one level or find that slinky dog way down to the ground. Just keep hugging the elbows in towards you as you lower with control. Plant through the feet, hands by the ribs, roll the shoulders back, rise, baby cobra, and release. Pressing your way up and back into a downward facing dog. Nice. From down dog, walk the feet forwards towards the hands. Bend the knees as much as you need to. We'll arrive in our forward fold. Coming light onto the fingertips, then stepping our left leg back behind us into our runner's lunge on the other side. Just being aware of how one side might feel different to the other, lifting as high as we need to on the hands, keeping that front knee over the front ankle, back heel sending away actively. Find one more breath here, and then release back knee to the ground. We'll rise to our low lunge, reaching the hands forwards, up and back, finding this nice activation in the lower body. So we're not just hanging out here expecting our legs to do some work. We're really finding this activation to engage the muscles in the lower body and really root down to the ground through the sole of that front foot. We'll find one more breath here, and then float left hand down to the ground and reach right hand all the way up to the sky in our twist. Nice. Remember to keep that front knee dialing in so it's not splaying out or collapsing in. It's just coming strongly in toward the midline, rotating through our rib cage. We'll then add that little movement, wiggle through the fingertips and reach the right hand towards the glute space. Then reach all the way up, take up lots of room as we tap down on the ground. A couple more times here, moving with your breath. And don't forget to smile as we paint these rainbows in our imaginary sky. And the next time your right hand taps down, keep it there. Option to lift onto your bricks as we lengthen our right leg, rock our hips back. We're not looking to sit all the way back here, so just keep our left hip roughly over our left knee. Toes flexed up of the right foot towards our face and soften belly towards the thigh. Keep a nice bend in this knee. We're not looking to lock into that knee joint and put lots of undue pressure here. Come to find one more breath. And then rocking the weight forwards. We'll lift that back knee off the ground, pivot back foot to the earth. Imagine it's facing about 10 o'clock and then rise into our warrior one. Really pressing firmly through each side of both feet. Go through almost our little mini checklist, dialing that back thigh internally so that the hips travel towards the front of the mat. And make your warrior one work for you. So just as I said in down dog, and as is the case for pretty much every yoga posture, yours will look different to mine. So make sure that your feet are as wide as you need them, legs are as long as you need them, and just make it work for you and your body. So invitation, if you feel comfortable, always to close down the eyes. This helps you really feel into what you're feeling here. Finding one more breath. And then release. Hands come down. And this time we'll step straight back to a downward facing dog. Staying here for one breath together. And then release into a child's pose.
Awesome. Really take this time in your child's pose to fully soften. So take this time in your child's pose to just come back to your breath. Really connect back to those mindful inhales and exhales. Acknowledge how much our breath guides us and supports us in our practice. And when we're ready, lift up just enough so we can tuck the toes under. Heels sit back, arms reach forward, rise, downward facing dog. From down dog, walk the feet towards the hands. Come to a forward fold. Lift up halfway, find a long flat back. And release completely, forwards. From here, fingertips to the earth. Step the right leg back and plant the foot so we rise straight into a warrior one. Press down through the lower body to rise all the way up. Find cactus arms with this bend in the elbows. Front knee bent, back leg nice and long, both legs active. Dialing the ribs in toward the midline. Find one breath here. And then release the hands to the hips. And we'll straighten through our front leg, mindful we don't lock into the knee joint, so keep a micro bend here. And we've been working a lot in our practice on exploring and feeling into length in our torso and our side body. So we're looking to keep all of this that we've practiced so far as we hinge forwards. So rather than our hinge coming just from this rounding straight away and closing off, we're looking to keep as tall as we can and then hinge from our hips. Our weight distribution doesn't shift in the lower body. Only go as far as you can until you start to feel that rounding in the back, so keeping long. And notice if you maybe need to shuffle that back foot up just slightly. Remember, make this work for you. We're looking to really root down through all four sides of both feet. Find one more breath in pyramid pose. And then if you have a brick or some form of a prop, I invite you to take it now to the inside of the left foot. And just place your left hand down on it. If you don't have one, we can just hover the hand to the inside of the left leg. And then taking your right hand to your rib cage, the lower body is going to stay where it is, and we'll find our twist. Let it initiate from the ribs as they spiral over to the right side, and either staying here with the right hand on the small of the back or lengthening that right arm and reaching fingertips to the sky. And here we have our triangle pose or trikonasana in Sanskrit. Now keeping our gaze down towards the ground, or if we've maybe been here before, perhaps we take it out to the side. If we have lots of space, we can lift to the sky, but that doesn't make this posture any worse or any better, so we're looking to find a space that's most comfortable for you. And just find one more breath here, and then slowly release, unravel bit by bit, and step forwards back to our fold. Release the head, the neck, the arms, bend the knees and pedal it out. Awesome. Fingertips come to the earth. This time step the left leg back. Same little flow on the other side. Straight away, turn those left toes out slightly and press up, rise into warrior one with cactus arms. Awareness spreading into the feet, lengthening through the torso. Taking one more breath here. And then releasing hands to the hips and straightening through that front leg as we prepare for pyramid posture. Lengthen as tall as we can and then hinge from the hips. Travel towards the front of our mat. The crown of the head shining towards the front. Pressing down particularly through that outer edge of that left foot. Don't forget that back edge of the foot. And stay here for one more full breath. If we have our prop, we can bring it to the inside of the right foot, or just let our right hand hover down on the inside of the leg. Left hand to the rib cage, keep the lower body exactly where it is, that back thigh spiraling forwards, and release, open that rib cage to the left side of the mat, spiral it open. Either bring left hand to the small of the back or up towards the sky. And whether the hand is lifted or rested, this is your version of triangle pose. Your practice is all about making things work for you and your body as you are today, meeting yourself where you are. So find one more breath here. And then slowly release, unravel, and step forwards to your fold. Pedal it out, hug opposite hand to opposite elbow, and release anything that you might be holding on to in the back of the legs, the lower back space. Swing your way back to center, plant the palms, and step both feet back straight to a child's pose. Knees wide, toes to touch, and sit fully back. Arms reaching forwards. But if the arms are feeling a little tired, then just take more of a generous bend into the elbows. We'll find 3 full breaths here. Feel free to add a bit of a wiggle into the hips. Just ease into this space. Tend to what you need to. And then nice and slowly lift up. Scoop the legs to one side. And shuffle towards the middle of your mat. We're going to make our way down to the ground. So we have a couple of options. We can either just support ourselves in lowering down, or if we want to find that a little bit more of a connection to our deep abdominals to support the strength in this area, we can reach the hands forwards, slightly touching towards the chest, very, very slightly, and start to roll down as slow as we can go, thinking about releasing one vertebra at a time onto the mat. But don't worry if you get halfway and then want to flop. I'm right there with you. Soften to the ground, hands to the belly. Keep the knees bent and walk the feet to the edges of the mat, so a little bit wider than normal. We'll then find our windscreen wipers, rolling the knees to the right. And then over towards the left. Just helping to let go of anything that might be being held around the hip space, the spine. Moving here from side to side. We're just cooling down from our practice, so take this nice and slow. Returning back to your breath, if your attention's drifted at all. One more time to each side. And then floating to center and walking the soles of the feet together, opening the knees out wide like butterfly wings. And we'll stay here for a while longer in our reclined butterfly pose. So thinking about keeping our lower back space on the earth. If we want to, if we have any extra props, any support, we can bring them to the edges, the outer edges of the legs here. And we'll find 5 breaths in our last posture of our practice. Really allow yourself to soften into this, taking away any tension from the face. Just let the belly be soft, checking back in with those rising and falling of the inhales and the exhales. using the hands to bring the knees back toward one another. Make your way to your final, most precious resting posture in Shavasana. So whether the knees stay bent or the legs come out long, just take a moment to really soften into this position and snuggle yourself into a space that feels comfortable. Take any extra padding underneath the head and the neck. And we're not going to be here for too long today, so making the most of the time that we do have in stillness as we close down our eyes. Start to slow our breath down just slightly, becoming a little more aware again. And allow the benefits of our practice to be sealed within us. Just notice how you feel. And simply practice here with a real loving kindness, a patience, a compassion, just bringing your attention back to the space, to your breath, to the present moment. Every time something pops into our mind and our attention drifts away. And I invite you to stay here a while longer if you have the time. But if you have to boogie off the mat, come to bring the palms together at the heart. And I thank you all so much for being here and for practicing with me. I honor you, I appreciate you, I love you. From my heart to yours, Namaste.